this is one of the more gender specific videos. And I try to stay away from that because I know I get a lot of pushback if I do them. And I do them rarely because, of course, there's room for everyone to struggle in different areas after a breakup. But I do see a trend. A lot of times I talk to a lot of people, so I want to share with you some of the things that I see. And let's start with men with commitment issues. I see that all of the time. The commitment issues I used to think had to do with two F's. Now I realize there are three F's that they really deal with. The fear of forever, saying forever, the fear of giving up freedom, and the fear of failure. Oh, and I hate that word, but it's used more often than I wish I heard it. Not in women. I rarely hear women refer to a breakup or a divorce as a failure at some level, but I hear that consistently with men. They feel as though because it didn't work out, they somehow failed. There was a failure there. And when that happens, the next relationships they're going to be in, they're going to be more buttoned up than you think they are because they are really afraid of going down that road again. They know how much it hurt. It was really a deep, deep wound, and it was something they took very personally, whether or not it was all on them when the relationship didn't work out, or it was, something, that you can see, that you could explain. It doesn't matter. They view it as a failure, and so they're so tentative to get into the next relationship that they will kind of exit, even if things seem to be going well. So if you're dealing with a man and he's pulling back on the commitment, and you always see this right when you're getting closer, you're ready to sign a lease together, you're ready to buy a ring and maybe be engaged, the families are ready to meet each other, you start going to other people's weddings, and all of a sudden, you're picking out furniture for your apartment on a Saturday, and they're walking on Monday. So if you see that you're getting really close, everything's going very well, and then they pull back, it could be a fear of commitment. And look at the three little subcategories. Okay, like we said, first, the fear of saying forever. This is overwhelming to a lot of guys. Like, are they ready to say forever? Have they done everything they wanted to do? Did they, build the life they wanted to build? Do they have the career they want? Are they ready to say forever? This is big. So some of them are really concerned with this. Others, it's the fear of giving up freedoms. They still want to kind of go out a little bit with their friends. They want to lead this life because also they're dealing with, am I ready to really be just kind of locked into this and say forever? So that's one thing to look at as well. And then, like we said, the fear of failure. Have they had a previous relationship that didn't work out for whatever reason? And do they view that as something that was a failure? And so all of these things are fear-based, as you can see. Fear-based. And fear, I always say, is stronger than love every day of the week. So if they have a fear of any one of these things, they may be holding back a little bit. Now, on the upside of commitment issues, you're probably going to have a breakup. It's probably going to happen. They're going to have that relief stage that they're off the hook now. They don't have to worry about any of those things happening. They can kind of go back and build a life of sorts. And so once they do that and get a little bit on the outside world, all of a sudden they're going out again and they're realizing, you know what? This isn't really where I want to be. I was pretty happy with this person. And they're going to circle back around again. And then people are saying, well, should I be nervous of this happening again? It's usually not something you see over and over. Once they get beyond that, they can kind of commit. A lot of the things they were thinking about are finished, and now they can kind of move in the forward direction. Remember, the truth of the matter is, especially with the fear of failure one, fear of anything really, men don't have the opportunity to process like we have, like women have. It is the way it is. It is. I mean, and I can't stand that either. I feel like women can talk to anybody. We can cry. We can express ourselves. We have an incredible support system on our side. We are, we're just surrounded by people that allow us to have all of our feelings without judgment. It's not the same for men. Even if they have very supportive friends and a supportive family, for some reason they don't feel as free to express themselves as we do, even with the closest people to them. So if they're not able to express themselves like that, they don't process the same way we do. So as a society, I feel like we just let them down, at every turn. Even if we're trying our best, there's just something in them that they don't feel open to expressing themselves in that way. There was a great TikTok that I saw once, and it was posing the question to men, and it said, when you're struggling or you're having a hard time, who do you talk to? And every man just said, like, no one. No. Oh, broke my heart. But it's true. It's true. So we have to understand that the way we process a breakup is going to be different at every level. We are different at our core. So that's one of the main things I see, the difference between men and women, as well as the ability to process fully. So what are we carrying into the next relationship? And also a big breakup for men is if they are struggling in life with any major life event, especially job related. When a man is not happy in his career, in his job, he's very likely to kind of step away from that relationship because he's so preoccupied with this thing going on in his life. He's not feeling like he's where he needs to be. He doesn't feel like he has any extra emotion with for a relationship. A relationship is work. It really is. So they almost feel like they can't put in that effort. Their mind is not there. They're not texting. They're not calling. They're not really present. So they will go for a breakup to kind of focus where they need to focus. And to them, providing, again, our society and men, the feeling of we have to provide, that ranks so high on their place of priorities that's going to take priority. And if anything else is kind of waning underneath that, they're going to let the relationship go, even if that's their support. That woman wants to help out. They want to support. They want to hear what you have to say. But men may choose to go in the direction of, look, I need a breakup here. You can do better at this point. Honestly, like, I've got nothing for you. I can't. I'm falling short. I'm coming up short for you. I'd rather let that relationship go so I don't feel this extra pressure of I'm letting somebody down, because they don't want to let you down. They don't, but they feel like they are. So they exit trying to focus there and almost believing that they're doing you a favor. You can find better because they're just not present. So that's a big one. That's a big one for guys. Now when we start to look at the female perspective, there are a few different kinds of why women go for a breakup, and it really has to do with their stages of life. So once we look at for the younger women first, usually they go from their parents to a boyfriend, then another boyfriend. They've never had a chance to be on their own. So when you're looking at women, sometimes in the end of high school, the beginning of college, the end of college, they are really looking at their life like, oh, I'm at this place now. I've worked hard in school. I've always been either under the care of my parents or a boyfriend. I want to experience life. And they're not necessarily thinking, I want to date X amount of people, although men will perceive it as that. That's not the case. Usually, they're trying to spread their wings. They want to spend a little time with their friends. They don't want to answer to the relationship. They want to know if they can have this independence. Can they stand on their own 2 feet? Can they take care of themselves? Who are they if they're not just a daughter or a girlfriend? Really struggling with the identity. And this is a pretty common stage for a lot of girls. And I know when they have this breakup, the guys really worry about, well, are they going to, date other people? And sometimes dating other people is a part of this process. And I know that's a tough one to handle, but it's really all part of them experience a little bit of their life. But the main reason is not to necessarily date other people, but it's really to kind of get a feel of what does life feel like when I'm just making my own decisions, when I'm just me. If a girl hits this stage, it's better to hit it now than after you're married and you have a few kids and then there's a crisis there and then she feels like, I never even had my teens. I never had my 20s. I was constantly in a relationship of sorts, making my identity within that relationship and not necessarily on my own. So this is just a stage too. Usually if they have this and they go out and they do live a little bit of a life, there's no reason why they can't return to that relationship at some point if that relationship had a really good foundation. So, don't ever fear breakups. They really do bring us to a completely different level. The people that are meant to be in our lives will absolutely be in our lives at that. And I really do believe that. So another, big one for women is when they get into a marriage or a long-term relationship, and then there are a few different types of breakups here. And I didn't even talk about midlife crisis for men. That's a completely other video. But for women, if they are exiting relationships after years with this person, most of the time, if it isn't a crisis of sorts where you see that there are, this person wasn't really expressive during the relationship, they've had some traumas that they brought in, they're going through something right now that's kind of changing their life in this moment. It's this breakup is a little more just kind of like off the cuff. It wasn't a long time coming. You can see that they may be going through a crisis of sorts, and that's something that has nothing to do with the health of that long-term relationship, more to do with what's going on right now in their life. I'll do one on midlife crisis. You could be looking at that. The other one is a woman who's maybe been dealing with troubles for a period of time, trying to talk about it with her husband or her long-term partner, really mentioning a lot of the problems and seeing if they can't work it through. She's going to exit, but probably after she has given a ton of thought and communication to the problem, but maybe the guy wasn't really realizing, hey, this could be a deal breaker. This could end in divorce. This could end in the ending of a long-term relationship. So she was speaking up. She was bringing some of the problems to light. And finally, she's like, you know what? They're not hearing it. They're not making, no changes are being made. I have to do something drastic. And so when that breakup happens, a guy may be on his heels, because as much as he heard the problems, he was there, he realized it, he didn't think that it was actually going to end in a breakup or a divorce. And now all of a sudden it's right at his feet. So then he starts kind of trying to bring up the rear and let's talk about this and let's get into some therapy and let's fix this. And the woman is usually like, but why now? Like, you've had all this time. Well, because now he knows it's breaking up a relationship, really breaking it up. So I can't fault a person for, trying at that point and realizing their back was up against the wall. Should they have made moves earlier? Yes, but sometimes they really don't know that this is as serious as it is. So now, has the woman had too much? Is she just at a point where I've given so many chances, I've tried so hard, I'm detaching now, and I'm pulling myself out of this because I feel like I really need to. So these are all valid reasons for breakups. It's what we do in the aftermath that's going to make the difference of whether or not we can work through some of this, or whether this is it. So we really don't know until months after the breakup as to whether or not we can put these things back on track. So these are some of the trends that I see happening between men and women. There are so many more, but these are just gender specific for a reason. Of course, they can go one way or the other. It really doesn't make any difference. But like anything else, you start to see trends. You start to see things that are happening again and again, worth mentioning. So everybody's different. Obviously, the challenges are different, but we are different animals, and we don't always speak the same language. So to try to understand the other person is really important as to whether or not you can get this relationship back on track. And if you're ever working with me, my first job is to say, let's take a look at this relationship. Like, is this worth saving? And most of the time, yes. Most of the time, the problems that I see are really coming from somewhere else. They bubbled over into the relationship, they manifest there, and now all of a sudden, where are we going with this? So we have to take a look at, are these relationships salvageable? And most of the time, yes, most are. So it's just something to think about.